everyone. Thank you so much for joining our holiday benefit. For those not familiar with Here, There, and Everywhere, htE for short, htE empowers survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking through the arts. From painting to drawing to jewelry making and paper mache, we try to provide survivors with as many platforms for creative expression as possible. Since the pandemic hit this year, we've been launching our 12-week program online instead of in person. And we're excited to announce that our third virtual program will start in January. Wherever you are in the world, we hope you enjoy our program today. And thank you so much for your support. As a part of our program, htE supports survivors in selling their handmade designs through Etsy and at various events and markets. 100% of profits from all sales go to the survivor who designed the item. When you visit our Etsy shop, you'll find a wide variety of different items, all designs unique to the survivor who made them. Here you can see a collection of some of the designs available right now, from aromatherapy eye masks and huggable stars to beautiful wall art and photography. We also love to make jewelry. When we're in person, we have 3 weeks of jewelry making workshops, and many of our participants have continued designing jewelry at home. From Swarovski crystals to feather earrings, you're sure to find something for every style. As a part of our marketing and entrepreneurship program, we encourage survivors who wish to jumpstart their artistic or design careers to set up their own websites or shops. Here are some websites launched by our participants. From commissioned paintings and more unique jewelry to organic body care and face masks, you're sure to find a gift for everyone on your list this holiday season. And now I'd like to invite our founders, Tanya and Andrew, to share a little more about the organization and how you can make a difference.
Well, first of all, just want to say thank you. Thank you for everyone for being here, and David, Alana, Catherine, Andrew, everyone behind the scenes for making this happen. Andrew, who's on the call now too, Andrew and I co-founded Here, There, and Everywhere in 2014. We were sophomores at NYU at the time, at New York University. And from the very beginning, we've always maintained an emphasis on community. htE is about community, and this is our first time trying to build a virtual community. So thanks for being a part of it. We don't provide counseling, we don't provide formal therapy, but what we do provide is a platform to learn how to express yourself and just build community. Because our emphasis is on community, we have participants that have been coming back year after year, and just they've been continuing to create with each other. And we also have participants that have gone on to lead workshops, that are coming back as teaching artists, and they're sharing their own skills and ways of expressing each other with each other. And as you saw, many of them also have gone ahead and have their own websites and their own Etsy shops, and that's what htE is about. It's about empowering the participants in our program to find their voice and to create. So if this sounds like something that you're interested in, if htE sounds interesting to you and you're wondering how you can get involved, we have so many different types of volunteer roles because our program's always evolving, and now we're in the virtual sphere. You don't even have to be in New York. So if you're interested in learning about different volunteer opportunities or internships, just contact us directly. We're excited to get to know you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew, and for those of you, because I know somebody had asked a similar question before as well, I don't have time to volunteer, so how can I help? As in, how can I make a difference? Well, when we say you can make a difference on the main banner on our website, it's not just a cliche tagline. We do truly mean it. And awareness, not just on the topic of domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking. I'm talking about ourselves and of those around us as a good place to start. A lot of philanthropic causes and nonprofits often talk about raising awareness, which has almost become a buzzword, in my opinion, that the meaning of it has been lost to the public. But at least when it comes to us, htE specifically, by awareness, we mean the awareness that the issues of domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking aren't distant topics. So when we talk about these things, I think a lot of people often picture and imagine the escalated stages. That's not how it always starts. You know, it can be much more subtle, leading to manipulation and ultimately escalating to what we most often imagine them to be. It could be happening to anyone. And when you're in it or around it, not everyone might be able to recognize it. What we do on a daily basis can make all the difference. So from our experience so far, we've learned that helping someone in trouble doesn't always have to mean taking legal intervention. How we treat each other every day matters. So if we can increase our awareness of those around us, and if we can be more sensitive to their responses and behaviors, we may be able to connect deeper and be a better support. And being a better community member is about learning to be considerate and aware of the subtext instead of just jumping to conclusions. So, you know, on a smaller and more personal basis, it's important to try and understand the psychology behind why one may respond the way they do in a given interaction. And until recently, for example, victim blaming was normal. But now we are learning that trauma plays out in many different ways. And one of the memories that really stuck with me during the earlier parts of the nonprofit, when we first started out in New York City locally at a shelter, and we had a participant, a particular person where she was a master seamstress. And in fact, she knew more than any one of us, any of us volunteers did. But we noticed though, that she would always ask us questions as to, is this okay? Or what should I do next? And at first, you know, of course, the first question that comes to our mind, or, you know, my initial reaction was, why are you asking? Like, we all already know that you already know. And in fact, you know more than any of us. And then it occurred to us that she's asking because of the mental headspace that the environment that she was in had instilled in her, where she had to seek permission and, you know, the lack of self-confidence, where even if she had the skills, she didn't realize it. Or even if she did, she felt like she couldn't actually express them unless she got permission from someone else. So instead of just jumping to conclusions or reacting out of a knee-jerk response, we took on the approach of simply asking her, well, what do you think? And from there on, like Tanya mentioned, you know, we learn from each other. So she was really the one that was teaching us the skills. And our role at that point simply became just asking her, well, what do you think? And let's make this a collaborative effort. And just simply letting her know after the fact, like, okay, yeah, like that worked out actually great. Until the point that eventually she didn't have to ask us questions because she realized that, in fact, yeah, she does know a lot more. I mean, not necessarily that she knows a lot more, but that she was more than competent. So kind of like that, you know, if we can shift our perspective and become more aware of small interactions, we may be better able to support a friend who needs help, and that act can go a long way. And hopefully you will have your community as well as others. And until every corner of the world is encompassed with this sense of community that we're talking about, hopefully here, there, and everywhere, is the goal.
So first of all, thank you so much for inviting me here today. This is a lovely event. So just for a little bit of background, so I'm the Deputy Director at the Manhattan Family Justice Center. I work for the Mayor's Office to end domestic and gender-based violence. And at the Manhattan Family Justice Center, we've had the honor of hosting Here, There, Everywhere when they were physically on site now for a number of years. So just to say, first of all, that, you know, I can really attest, and all of us at the MFJC, Manhattan Family Justice Center, can attest to how lovely, amazing this program is and how much it means to people. So I hope you all who have joined us today, you know, those who can are able to contribute because it's really a wonderful and important program, you know, and we've been continuing to support it while it's working remotely. And we're so grateful and so impressed with all of the work that we see from you guys. So thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you to Tanya, Andrew, to the participants, and of course to the volunteers who helped put this program together. So thank you all so much. So first of all, just a word on terminology. I'm on slide 2. So when we say intimate partner violence, right, we're talking about between current, previous romantic partners. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to have a sexual element to the relationship. And we're really open at the FJCs as to the language we use, right? We want survivors to feel like they're able to define their own terminology. So if they want to refer to themselves as victims of domestic violence, as survivors, as somebody who was harmed by somebody else, you know, we kind of go with whatever language that they choose, right? And the same thing goes for the person who has done the domestic violence, right? The perpetrator, the abusive partner, you know, we stay open to the language that the person comes into the center using. And again, I will get into our center in just a moment for those unfamiliar with what we do. So what is intimate partner violence on slide 3? So we really view this, there are kind of different frameworks for how you view this, but at the end of the day, you know, we take the survivor's word for it, right? If they have come to the place where they're identifying themselves, you know, as a victim of survivor of abuse, you know, but the way that we see it really is that one partner is gaining power and control and a power of behavior, a pattern of behavior over another, right? So that the imbalance of power is fixed and remains constant. And, you know, some folks feel like, you know, I don't know if I'm quite there, I don't know how I feel about this. And for some people, it's a lot to unpack where they are on kind of the continuum of unhealthy relationships going into abusive relationships. And, you know, when possible, counseling can be really beneficial to folks to really unpack where they kind of stand on that continuum, right? And so the form of abuse may change, there may be escalations up and down, but again, and I think one of the main indicators that we use is fear. Is one person persistently fearful of another, right? Because that shows there's, you know, physical intimidation or verbal, you know, abuse. Is one person really, you know, identifying that they're afraid of the other person? So moving into slide 4, you know, just to say again, we encounter a lot of people who, you know, they don't know where they are, whether they're in an, you know, what is an unhealthy a relationship, right, which is more defined by, you know, a lot of conflict in the relationship, or whether there is that fixed imbalance of power. All right, so I'm just going to go briefly here. So establishing power and control. So again, there's going to be a pattern of behavior, pattern fluctuates, and of course this can go over, you know, a very long time frame. And I just want to note too, right, that the form of the intimate partner violence can change over time. And also I do want to, you know, I want to make sure that you guys, you know, have room to ask questions. So I think there is a chat and feel free to write any questions in there. So now I'm on slide 6, so some forms of intimate partner violence. So there's a whole variety, right, that we see. So we're saying here physical, emotional, verbal, sexual abuse, financial abuse. And I think a lot of these were kind of hinted at in that video. I noticed the financial abuse piece there, right? There's also ways of manipulating someone, you can imagine, through their immigration status, through their sexual identity, you know, there are many different ways, and also through using the criminal justice system against the victim of the abuse, right? So calling the police on them, you know, continuing to file petitions against them, even though it's actually the abusive partner who's using the system against that person. So, you know, these tactics can vary, and there's a lot of technological abuse that people are identifying these days, you know, threats through a cell phone or threats to release intimate photos. You know, there's lots of different factors going on. So just to step back a little into like the larger context, and I'm actually going to go to slide 8. So, you know, 1 in 3 women and about 1 in 4 men have experienced sexual violence, physical violence, and or stalking by an intimate partner during their lifetime. And that's a really staggering number, right? Over 81,000 calls made to the DV hotline in 2018. And that's the NYC DV hotline, which I'm going to give you the number for as well. And then, you know, I just want to make a note too, right, as we can all imagine, and we've probably read about during the pandemic, you know, a lot of people are, you know, in a situation where they're feeling quite trapped, sharing a space with their abusive partner. So the FJCs, you know, we've gone almost fully remote, but we're very operational remotely, but we have been picking up calls, and we've noticed that there are so many new clients and situations that we're trying to address. So we, you know, we just want to call out there that times are tough for everyone, which adds additional stressors, you know, for the most vulnerable people in our society, and people, you know, who are victims of domestic violence being among them. So again, I'm just gonna state quickly as well, right? Even though this is super prevalent, it's very underreported, intimate partner violence in general. And I think, you know, we all can imagine what some factors are for that, right? Why people are hesitant to access services, you know, and a big one that I see that we always try to get out in the community, just to make people, you know, aware that there's so much help out there when they're ready to take that step. Because I think a lot of folks don't realize, and so we're always trying to get our word out there, right, to make sure that people know about all the resources that there are, particularly in New York City. So anyway, going back to the factors that keep people from seeking help, right? Financial reasons, language fluency, immigration status, you know, relationship history. You know, we get a lot of people who, you know, feel a strong attachment to the person causing them harm, to abusing them, and they feel like it's some form of betrayal to ask for help. You know, and we meet the person where they are when they come into our center, but we certainly try to encourage them to get the help, get the information, and then they can kind of slowly make the decision as to how they want to exit the situation or remain in the situation, but do so in a more safe fashion, you know, whatever it is. Again, we meet the, you know, survivors where they're at. And I just wanted to state too, so I'm on slide 11 now, that, you know, there's a lot of, that DV is a lead factor that leads to homelessness. So, you know, there's a fairly robust shelter system in New York City, but it leaves certain folks behind. And it's really challenging for some people to find emergency shelter. But, you know, we certainly have a system in place there to help people. So then, and also, you know, I always want to note as well that there's a very strong negative impact on folks' health who are experiencing domestic and gender-based violence, you know, in terms of chronic illness, mental health. So, you know, that's always a driving factor there. So my office, so we, the Mayor's Office, I'm on slide 12 now, the New York City Mayor's Office to End Domestic and Gender-Based Violence. We have a variety of different programs, as you can see there, where, you know, one of the exciting programs listed on here is that some of our staff go into schools, you know, even for children of very young ages, and start very early on to discuss what is a healthy relationship. And we have, you know, a policy team as well, research and evaluation. We run a task force that comes together every once in a while, but then we also run the New York City Family Justice Center. So like I said, now there's one in each borough, and but we run at the Manhattan Family Justice Center. We are lucky enough to run the Here, There, Everywhere program, typically when it's in session during normal times. So what do we do at the Family Justice Center? So we are a center that runs in a collaborative model. So it's all sorts of folks from different agencies, different people from different nonprofits doing different sorts of work together in one place. So the idea is that we don't want, you know, survivors to have to go here, there, all over the place trying to seek services. So you know, the idea is that we connect them with services all under one roof, so that they can come in for an appointment, see an attorney, and then meet with their counselor, you know, or their case manager, right? That is the idea there. So on slide 13, you can see the different programs that we have. And then we also work, you know, we have a NYPD officer on site for the people who choose to make a police report, for the people who choose to pursue, you know, the criminal justice system. But we also want to note that there are many other options for those who don't feel comfortable engaging the criminal justice system, and they are absolutely welcome in our center and to seek services, because there are plenty of other social services outside of that for those people. So on slide 14, just being mindful of time here, I put the phone numbers. And again, these centers are currently taking calls, you know, Monday to Friday, doing our very best. All of them, you can leave messages on their answering machines. We're all trying to do our best to get back to people, make sure that they're getting the services. And again, since this pandemic started, we've had, it was over 8,000 new clients come in and work with all of the different family justice centers. All right, so there's obviously so much more I could say, but I will start to wrap this up. I'm going to put here, so slide 15. So I hope that you all are coming away a little bit more aware of the resources in New York City. So again, the Family Justice Center, that's going to be the first place where you would want to call, if you're within business hours. If you're outside of business hours and someone really needs assistance, there are two main hotlines that folks can call. And again, these are good for you as bystanders, people who kind of have friends and family who may be experiencing these situations. It is very hard to talk to people about this, and it's very hard to safely approach people who are experiencing violence, because you don't know if they're in a safe situation to do so. You don't necessarily know who's watching them. So where possible, it's better to build rapport with that person so that then you can discreetly pass them information, right? But for those who do need to be connected with resources, the National Domestic Violence Hotline is great, and they certainly are aware of all of the national, the more local phone numbers, and so they are a great kind of starting point to refer people to more local resources. However, within New York City, within the 5 boroughs, the NYC DV hotline that's run by Safe Horizon is a wonderful resource, and also people's first entryway a lot of the time to shelter. So if someone needs to access emergency shelter, the DV hotline is a great place to start that process of seeking emergency shelter, to make sure that they're in a safe place. But certainly they can connect with other service providers as well through that hotline, and they will give the information to other folks. All right, so now hang on, let me go in here, and if anyone is able to read me a question, because I actually cannot find the chat. Sure.
Jennifer would like to know what she can do to help the cause. She's no longer in New York due to COVID, but would love to help in any way possible.
Great. I mean, I would say, there are always local agencies. Like if you're outside of New York City, I would get in touch with local nonprofits who, may need, if for folks would rather donate time than money right now, or both, there's always some type of volunteer assistance that one can provide, especially during these times. So if you have a certain background or something that you're able to give, I would absolutely reach out locally, because then, when all of this is over, right, you can help to connect, or you can kind of continue to connect with that organization. And then I also recommended, and I hope that this resource maybe can be distributed as well, a bystander training. It's a free, I think it's a 1-hour training about what to do if you see, either street harassment or some kind of dangerous situation, like how to respond. But certainly there are many avenues to volunteer, especially in this more open climate where you can do so remotely. That's helpful.
And if you'd like to volunteer remotely, Here, There, and Everywhere is doing a remote program this cycle. So if you want to volunteer with us, get in touch with Tanya at herethereandeverywhere.com. Chelsea would like to know, if someone doesn't per se want help, is there anything else that we can do?
Like if someone's not in the place yet where they're ready to accept help? Okay. We certainly come across those cases where somebody's reaching out to us and saying, this person needs help, this person needs help. And, when we actually check in with that survivor, they're not ready yet. And I think just remaining open. I think it means more than to the survivor that you're saying there's help there, that you're saying, I'm here when you're ready. And it may take someone, many years or however long it is to actually reach out to the help. But I think there's more power maybe than we realize in saying, I'm here, there is help. And I'm just going to remain open for whenever you're ready. And I accept you for where you are. And I'm not going to judge, because, of course, we never know what's going on and why someone isn't ready for the help. So I hope that answers the question. And, if you're able to have a conversation with that person in a safe place, to tell them, like, listen, there's free legal services, there's free case management, counseling services, wonderful programs like this can be an entryway for people to, build a community and start to seek the help they need.